Hello YouTube, Old Tech Fan here. Today we're going to recap the crossovers on these DCM Timeframe 700 speakers. These are Mark 1s, which were made in about 1987. And the original crossover design on these, if you do any research on the internet, you'll see that the later designs were on a printed circuit board. These, although I haven't opened them up yet, but from everything I've read, are going to be on a block of wood, and somewhat of a crude construction, but we'll see. We're gonna go ahead and take this one apart and see what we're looking at here. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, to get these speakers apart, and this is going to apply to pretty much any of these TF-700s. Doesn't matter, if it's an earlier production run or a later. You're going to have this back plate here, and there's a lot of screws. You're going to have to take all those screws out. And what I suspect I'm going to find behind here is that the speaker grill cloth, or body sock as it's sometimes called, will be completely wrapped around the speaker, meaning I'm going to have to make a slight cut in it in order to get at the crossover. One thing of note here, when you're taking these screws out, there are two different lengths. You've got these long ones here, and you've got these shorter ones here. These shorter ones go all along the outside perimeter of the back plate, and the longer ones are for these on the inside, which I believe attach to some cross bracing, but we'll see exactly what it is when we get the back panel. Okay, so here we're looking at with the back panel off, or starting to come off. See if I can get some better light here. I'm going to turn the camera here. Okay, so much for the light. I don't know how well that's showing up. So you got your positive and negative for the speaker terminal block. On the bottom here, be careful when you pull this off, because there's a little bit of glue, or maybe it was wet paint, I don't know, that's stuck to the fabric, and you just kind of have to be careful when you're pulling that off. But just as I suspected, the grill cloth is actually seamed right in the center here. So it goes all the way around. So we're going to have to make a slight incision in there to get the crossover. Okay, and we have the back panel completely off. And again, just as I predicted, there's our crossover network, kind of made on a block of wood. So this is definitely, these are early production run Timeframe 700s with the early crossover design. So we're going to go ahead and get this crossover out and get it ready to replace now I'm not recapping the whole thing, I'm just replacing the 3 electrolytics that are on there. The rest of them are all polycaps or film, and we don't need to worry about those. And we're just replacing the electrolytics. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of room to work. What we've had to do is we cut right along the seam here, and we'll get a needle and thread, I guess, and sew that back up, because that does make this not so taut, and I don't want that to affect the front. But without totally cutting open this body sock, which I don't want to do because it's in perfect shape, I'm just going to lay the crossover board like this and work on it here, which is not ideal, but that's about all the slack I have. I could desolder these wires, but as you can see, this is kind of a rat's nest crossover here. So here are the electrolytics that we're going to replace. We've got 100 at 100 volts right here. This one down here should be a 6.8 at 100 volts, although what may be in this one is a 10 at 100 volts, but later schematics used a 6.8, so that's what's going to be going in there. And then this one, I believe, is a 47 at 100 volts. And the rest of them are all film caps. So those are going to be good. Alright, I'll be back once we get this done. Okay, I forgot to take a video of the caps replaced on the crossover board. So I'll make sure I get a shot of that on when I do the next speaker here in just a minute. But let's see, I use a little bit of hot melt glue to repair that seam, just to keep a little tension on it. It's nothing critical, just kind of keep it somewhat neat. I didn't feel like sewing it. It'll be fine. I did have to do some modifications with capacitor location. So again, I'll show that on when I do the other side. So more to come in a few. Okay, here is the other speaker with the new caps installed. This one did not require the same modification that the other one did. You know, these are truly hand assembled crossovers, so there were a couple variances between the two. This cap right here, this one has been disconnected electrically. The leads have been cut tight to the capacitor, so it is completely inactive. I simply glued the new capacitor on top of the old one, because if you see in here, just all the glue, and I really didn't want to break anything. It's glued to the coil, it's glued to these other two caps, so it just wasn't worth the potential damage that could be caused by trying to get it out. So it's not pretty, it's not the way I like to do things, but you know, it was, I think, the best decision in this case. The other two, no problem. Two brand new ones, all solder joints done, and this is ready to be reinstalled. But the modification on the other one that had to be made was this capacitor right here, the original one. There was so much glue, and there really wasn't any way to get it out without breaking something, just like this other one I just showed you. So what I did is I left it in there, again, disconnected it electrically, cut both leads, and then rather than gluing it on top, because of this resistor, I didn't want to really crowd this resistor, I just had to solder on a couple of pieces of wire, and then I glued to the board right here, the 6.8 to the board right here, and connected it that way. So there you go. We'll put these back together and see how they sound. Here are the speakers completed, playing very well. Another successful crossover rebuild. Thanks for watching.